A lioness was holding the scruff of a small, weak lion cub firmly in her mouth as she appeared right outside Ranger Alex's Darkwood cabin. This was no ordinary approach. There was no stalking, no territorial display. Across the low green grass of the African savanna, past the scattered acacia trees, she moved with deliberate, heavy steps toward the man standing in his doorway. Alex's heart hammered against his ribs, instinctively telling him to back away, to follow decades of training that dictated a dangerous line must never be crossed. But the lioness stopped just short of the threshold. She lowered her head and gently placed the lion cub down onto the rough wooden step. The tiny creature was barely moving, one shoulder wet with blood. The lioness looked up, meeting Alex's gaze. Her eyes were not narrowed in aggression, but wide with an intense, raw desperation, a plea that transcended species. It was a primal, agonizing request for help. This singular moment, where a predator surrendered its innate hostility for the sake of a child, shattered every rule Alex knew. He had a choice: obey fear or honor trust. The silent desperation in the lioness's eyes was the only authorization Alex needed. He took a deep, shaky breath and stepped over the threshold. The lioness tensed, but did not move. Moving slowly, Alex knelt beside the lion cub. Its breathing was shallow, ragged, and a severe gash tore across its young shoulder. The silence from the lioness was heavier than any roar. Carefully, Alex lifted the small body, wrapping it in a thick jacket before retreating inside the cabin. He knew he was gambling everything on a fragile, unspoken agreement. The lioness followed to the door, placing her head on the step where the lion cub had rested. She did not attempt to enter the Darkwood cabin, but her gaze was relentless, a constant, heavy weight watching Alex's every move. Inside, the rustic space became an emergency room. Based on the wound depth and location, Alex made a quick assessment. The lion cub had likely been attacked by a dominant male lion, a brutal act of territoriality often lethal to the young. Working with the limited supplies he had, Alex first stabilized the small creature. He cleaned the wound meticulously, applying a disinfectant to prevent immediate infection, a crucial step for survival in the wild. He used sterile thread to put in temporary stitches, doing his best to close the worst part of the gash. He injected a broad-spectrum antibiotic and ensured the lion cub was positioned near the small heater to maintain its body temperature. Every deliberate, gentle action was a silent message to the fierce mother watching outside. I am trying to help. The high stakes of the situation pressed down on him. A severe injury and potential internal damage meant the lion cub needed urgent advanced medical care. But before that, it needed to survive the night. Time became Alex's most feared enemy. He settled in, one hand resting lightly on the cub's chest, counting the faint, rhythmic breaths. Outside, the lioness was a motionless golden statue, her presence a silent, tense vigil against the forces of the night. Every minute that passed was a small, hard-won victory in the tiny body's fight for life. The suspense was agonizing, forcing Alex and the audience to root for the fragile heartbeat against all odds. If he could just keep breathing until dawn, they might have a chance. As the pre-dawn light began to filter through the acacia trees and kiss the low green grass, Alex finally felt the lion cub's breath steady slightly. He had survived the first terrifying test. With the lion cub stabilized, the time came for the critical next step. The sun was fully up, washing the African savanna in bright light. Alex secured the lion cub in a small transport crate, carefully patting the injured shoulder. He knew this moment would test the lioness's incredible trust to its absolute limit. He carried the crate outside. The lioness rose in an immediate, tense display of maternal fury, a low growl rumbling in her chest. Alex kept his voice soft, gentle, and non-threatening as he loaded the crate into his open Jeep. He never looked directly at the mother, but instead focused on the task, showing his intent was purely medicinal. He pulled away from the Darkwood cabin, expecting a charge, or at least an aggressive pursuit. Instead, the lioness, After a moment of intense hesitation followed, she maintained a respectful but determined distance, never more than a few meters behind the vehicle as it drove across the savannah toward the veterinary station. This silent escort was the ultimate surrender of control, a painful act of faith that allowed her child to be carried away by the very species she was hardwired to distrust. They arrived at the modern veterinary station, a facility equipped with advanced medical equipment. The veterinary team, led by Dr. Anya, was stunned by the sight of a lioness waiting patiently, stoically, near the entrance. The cub was rushed inside. X-rays quickly confirmed Alex's fears. The initial attack had resulted in a severely fractured shoulder. Surgery was the only option to save the lion cub's limb and ensure a functional recovery. The next 2 hours were an emotional blur for Alex and Dr. Anya. The fracture was repaired with precision, and a surgical team gave the lion cub the best chance possible. Afterward, the small patient was kept overnight for observation. As the sun began to set, Alex drove back to his cabin, his gaze frequently flicking to his rearview mirror, but the lioness was gone. The next morning, Alex returned to the veterinary station to retrieve the lion cub. Back at the cabin, he set the lion cub, now bandaged and groggy, onto the familiar wooden steps. He waited. He searched the low green grass and the silhouettes of the acacia trees. The lioness was nowhere to be seen. A deep ache settled in his chest. Had the long separation broken her trust? Had she given up? He realized the truth as he carried the lion cub inside. Her vigil had ended when the job was done. She hadn't lost faith. She had simply confirmed her trust was well-placed and entrusted him completely with the cub's recovery. Her absence was a profound, silent thank you. Weeks turned into months. The lion cub, now moving with playful energy and strength, had been successfully released back into the savannah. The incident became a treasured memory, a story of unbelievable cross-species connection. Life settled back into the routine of patrols and conservation work for Ranger Alex. One late afternoon, Alex was driving his aging Jeep across a remote stretch of the savannah, the scattered acacia trees casting long shadows. Suddenly, the engine sputtered, then died completely. He tried to restart it. Nothing. He sighed, radioed his location for backup, and stepped out to inspect the engine. The silence of the savannah felt too immediate, too heavy. His attention was immediately drawn to the subtle movement in high grass. Before he could react, a low, menacing chorus of cackles broke the stillness. A large clan of hyenas materialized from bush, surrounding the disabled Jeep. They were lean, coordinated, and numerous, their eyes fixed on Alex with calculating hunger. The danger was immediate and profound. Alex quickly scrambled back in the Jeep, pulling the door shut just as the first clan of hyenas member launched. He was trapped. The hyenas circled the vehicle, nipping at the tires and scratching the chassis, their high-pitched calls signaling a drawn-out, certain attack. Backup was still an unknown distance away, and the thin metal of the Jeep offered little defense. Fear, cold and sharp, gripped him. Just as the clan of hyenas began to press closer to the doors, a sound cut through the cackling, a sound that shook the very ground. A deep, resonant roar, closer than Alex could have imagined. Suddenly, the hyenas broke their circle, their focus shifting to a point behind Alex. From a cluster of acacia trees burst two figures, a powerful lioness, and, right beside her, a magnificent young male lion with a developing mane. The pair charged the clan of hyenas with stunning speed and ferocity. The sudden, overwhelming counterattack sent the hyenas scattering. The lioness moved with ruthless precision, cornering the stragglers while the young male lion stood sentinel, his roar cementing their authority. Alex watched in stunned silence, his heart hammering with a mix of terror and disbelief. He recognized her instantly. The slight tear in her left ear, a mark he'd seen while cleaning her cub's wound, confirmed it. The lioness he had saved months ago had returned, and she had brought her protector, perhaps the lion cub he had treated, now grown and powerful. The one who had begged for help was now the unexpected savior. The sheer audacity and timing of their intervention was the most shocking moment of his life. The clan of hyenas was completely routed, vanishing back into the shadows. The clan of hyenas was gone, but the lioness and the young male lion remained. They did not approach the jeep. Instead, they settled down a respectful distance away, facing the direction the hyenas had fled. They had transformed themselves from ferocious rescuers into silent, majestic bodyguards. For the next 10 minutes, Alex watched them. The lioness occasionally glanced toward the jeep, a serene, calm acknowledgement replacing the panic of their last encounter. The young male lion stood tall, his presence an unbreakable barrier. It was a clear, unspoken message. You saved mine, now we guard yours. This act of reciprocation defied all scientific logic and conservation theory. It was pure, simple gratitude expressed in the universal language of loyalty. The low rumble of another engine finally reached them. Alex's backup was arriving. As the rescue jeep crested the low hill, the lioness and the young male lion rose to their feet. They looked back at Alex one final time. In that brief, shared moment, the entire cycle of debt, trust, and rescue was completed. Then, without a sound, they turned and disappeared back into the depths of the scattered acacia trees, melting into the vastness of the savannah. They sought no reward, no praise, only to honor again. Alex stepped out of his jeep, his legs shaking, not from fear, but from the emotional impact of what he had witnessed. He explained the situation to his colleagues, who could only stare at the empty savannah, barely grasping the magnitude of the story. The encounter affirmed the deepest lesson of the wild. Empathy is a universal language, and true trust is a two-way contract that transcends the barriers of species. When Alex had chosen kindness over fear, he hadn't just saved a life. He had established an alliance that later saved his own. The profound intelligence and loyalty of the lioness and the young male lion redefined his understanding of the relationship between humanity and the natural world, proving that the greatest lessons are often learned not through dominance, but through a willingness to serve. This was the silent, magnificent, emotional payoff of a trust placed months ago.